Clapping cheeks and filling stat sheets. That's what we do in the Bay. Nah, that was a fun seventh preseason game, respectfully. When people say respectfully, kind of means not, right? Now, but we understand who Portland is at this point right now. 12-man rotation. I think that's the storyline, right? Is how are all these guys going to play? What is the rotation going to be? Kerr goes with Steph, Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond, and Trace. The starting lineup we saw, I believe, in the final two preseason games, right? The biggest, most athletic lineup he can go with. We'll get to Kuminga here in a minute. But what I wanted to talk about first was, and what I was kind of surprised to see, was it was Buddy Hield off the bench first. Okay, that's not too surprising. The shooting, we started 0 of 8 from three-point range, right? So that wasn't very surprising. But then it was GP2. Then it was Pods. Then it was Looney. You look over there, and Melton and Slow-Mo are still in their warm-ups. And then it dawned on me like, no, this is the code. This is how it goes, right? It doesn't have to be the NBA. We've all had workplaces where seniority, it just has to work that way, at least initially, like requesting time off, tough type of thing. If you've been at the job longer, you're going to get the request first if you request the same day off. And I think it works to that extent in the NBA. Granted, it's not like a big money player, but I think Kerr very much made a point that, hey, Looney, Pods, GP2, they're going to check in first. And what did he say? He made up the night before, oh, I got to go to 12. I thought it was going to be 10. I got to go to 12. So, yeah, I think initially a lot of people were probably like, yo, is Melton and Slow-Mo, they're on the end of this rotation? And I think, to be fair, the matchup will dictate it as well. Oh, you need another defender. Melton comes in for, you know what I mean, in certain situations. But I do think Kerr made it a point to let the OGs touch the floor first. Fall is here. Football is here. Halloween is just around the corner, right? But this is the time of year where people tend to get under the weather because the weather is changing over. Liquid IV, it's got 5 times your daily value of vitamin C, 3 times the electrolytes of the other leading sports drinks. And they've got a ton of diverse and exotic flavors. They just sent me a golden cherry. I'm really liking that one. They've got a mango passion fruit. And again, you're going to get 3 times the hydration along with essential minerals. You just tear, pour, and live more. 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water is going to hydrate you more than water alone. What I really like to use it for is football Sundays. When you tend to want to crack the brewski a little early, just tear, pour, and live more. And you'll hydrate yourself and pace yourself through those dramatic Sundays. So support everyday wellness with Liquid IV and get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you head to liquidiv.com and use code alchemy at the checkout. Again, get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV using the promo code alchemy at liquidiv.com. Now, the other interesting thing around this game in the opener were some comments from Steve on Buddy Hield, and then even Steph post-game. Let's play Steph's post-game.
How sustainable is a 12-man rotation in the NBA?
We're going to find out. It's the identity of this team right now. We're going to rely on our depth, ability to be versatile depending on what the game calls for, what lineup is going well. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of narrowing down of rotation at some point, depending on how things materialize, but that's not for us to worry about right now. It's about everybody just playing the way you know you're supposed to play hard, take advantage of your minutes out there, and we're still learning each other in the different rotation or combinations, so it's just part of, again, our identity right now and evolve throughout the year.
How important is team brotherhood and trying to do something like that?
Energy's been great from day one of training camp. It's a beautiful locker room, guys that are happy to be here, happy to play the way that we do. I understand everybody can get an opportunity. Coach has done a pretty good job of explaining, the situation we're all in, in a positive way of, again, how many guys he would like to play and how many guys can play. And to your point, you have to have, again, a commitment and no agendas, no egos, or healthy egos of when you're out there, you know you're supposed to be out there, but if it's not your night, You can't bring the team down with your energy. So I haven't seen any red flags with that, which has been great.
Now, Steve Kerr was also asked about Buddy, and he was like, he's just a joy to be around. He just comes in happy every day to the facility. He works hard. He wants to learn. Like he just, just heaping praise on Buddy Hield. But I think a lot of people were kind of like, oh, kind of sounds like a shot at Clay, right? But from both Steph and Kerr, you could, it's subjective, but I think a lot of people, that's where their mind went. And I think that part of it is, maybe not intentionally, but that's naturally what everybody's going to think, the optics of it. I think that there is a little bit of that, like just acknowledging the better energy in the building right now. I also think part of this sentiment from Steph in particular is he's speaking to the rest of the roster. Kuminga, the young guys, the new guys that just signed on, like, hey, we're 12 deep. And he's just going to preach this, right? He's getting out ahead of it. It's not once someone is salty or not playing enough, he's out ahead of it. And so, yeah, a little bit of it you could read into how Clay had been acting, but I think also it's towards this roster, and that's what it's going to take. The chemistry is so important with this depth because there's give and take with this depth, right? But let's talk about Buddy Hield. Lighten it up. I don't know the stats. Y'all know the stats. You can look it up. What do you have, like 22 points? He had more points than minutes. Right. And he came in and kind of took the lid off in Portland, in that second quarter. And I think the beauty of this is, boy, did Buddy make a great decision coming to the Warriors, right? You understand the system fit, but also there is probably only one franchise player in the league that Buddy could come play with, and they're all right with him taking all those shots, just full green light. Like Cyclops without the visor, like just letting it go, right? Because not only is Steph comfortable in his legacy and who he is, he also understands shooting at a master level. And he understands like what's a good shot for Buddy and what's not. And so it's just this ultra green light and this freedom for Hield. He said it, he hasn't felt it since Oklahoma. And so it's exciting to see this version of Buddy unlocked. Now, a lot of people, Sacramento fans and Pacer fans are like, you just wait. He always starts off hot. Well, that's the beauty of depth. And teams are going to attack him. You saw Chauncey come out of a timeout and draw up an Advia switch. He got the and one. He's putting up some resistance. He's just got to put up enough resistance to let the help get there, be in the right spots, right? And I guess that leads me to, because I'm thinking about that play where he stripped Advia and then Draymond gets the technical, right? It was a horrible call. It was a horrible call. I don't really have a problem with Draymond getting the technical. It was just how long it went on after that. And it's like, dude, now Kerr called a timeout to try to diffuse the situation. I've been saying it for years. You gotta have, I get the roster's young, there's new guys. You gotta have at least two designated guys to come get him away, move him from proximity. But lost in that, because I think a lot of the fan base was frustrated in seeing that in game one, Draymond might have been the best player on the floor for the Warriors last night. Like he put on a clinic defensively, getting out signature closeouts, breaking up lobs, sealing, tapping, distance management, switching, and his presence was felt. I think the other dope thing that you're seeing with this new look is Trace is in a lot more of the ball screens, right? And you have Draymond either in the corner or on the wing as like a short roll decision maker, only he's not rolling. But it allows him to chill on defense. He just doesn't have to set a screen, reset a screen, move, and like keep moving. He can kind of, there's a lot of more offensive possessions where Draymond's just standing there. And I mean that in a good way because he can use it on the other end, right? And it's funny because we've all seen it backfire on Draymond. He gets the tee, and now the refs are after the Warriors the rest of the game. But last night in Portland, it almost worked for him because all of a sudden they kind of swallowed the whistle and they let him play a little more physical. And it's just human nature. I think some of these refs are just like, look, I don't want to deal with this dude. I don't want a scene. Like I'm just, if it's any type of gray area whistle, I'm not blowing it because I don't need this dude. I don't need to be on SportsCenter with Draymond barking at me, right? But we know it can work the other way as well. So let's talk Kuminga. He struggled, right? He pressed like a lot of us suspected that he would. And I'm not worried about it yet. You know, what I did like was that he didn't get over emotional. He didn't show too much frustration in his body language. But again, the fear is with this depth, can it snowball? Like, we don't want this to snowball, because with the depth in these rotation minutes, like, all of a sudden, is he looking at his stats 20 games in and he's like, dude, I'm playing 22 minutes a game and I'm averaging 9 points. You know, if the Warriors are in first place, you'd hope that that would be enough. Or if we were in the top 3 in the West, you'd be like, all right, well, I'm part of this winning. But we know the reality is, in a contract year like this, it's not going to be. So you don't want it to snowball. And that, I think, is the give and take with this deep rotation, is guys finding a rhythm. I saw people on pods about, oh, at least he takes charges because he missed some threes last night. He was 0 of 5. Like, Pods is a player where if he's playing more sporadic minutes and in 8 to 12, I know he played 25 because of the extended garbage time, but it's some of these guys, it's going to be hard to find a rhythm when Kerr is being more dynamic and you're playing 8 minutes here and you play 20 minutes the next night. And so that could be the cost of it. But then when you flip that, you could also say, okay, Buddy was hot, right? Let's say Melton gets hot tomorrow night in Utah, right? And then when someone cools off, someone else picks it up. That, next man up mentality can work both ways, but just something to keep an eye on. And Pods played fine, man. Like, it's not all, listen, plus minus we've all seen instances where you're like, that's ridiculous, right? But there's a reason Pods is a plus minus god. And, he had a offensive rebound, 50-50 ball, we get another 3. Drop off dime to Trace. The 2 charges, those are 2 forced turnovers, right? A couple assists. Like, there's other ways. His floor game is still his floor game. Steph, almost triple-doubled. I was calling for this a year ago, like, hey, point Steph. I think Steph should be more of a distributor. But then as the season unfolded, we didn't have the personnel for him to do it. Remember the first 10 games last year? We needed like 40 a night from Steph to stay in the games. What a difference a season makes, right? And so you saw him hunt assists in that second half as the game got out of hand. It's all right, man. These guys, don't kid yourself. They all hunt numbers at certain points in games. Like, very few guys don't hunt numbers. Looney's hunting rebounds. Like, it's part of the game and it's part of the motivation. But I think for Steph, when you're such a natural scorer and shooter, finding the balance of, because there was a couple plays right late where it was like, Steph, you could have just made the layup, but he was hunting the assist. And it's like an all or nothing thing. When you see a guy like switch into playmaking mode, now I'm only looking to make plays, right? But you kind of got to take what's in front of you and finding that balancing act. That's kind of like Luka and Trae Young. Ironically, they're always going to be connected, but those are the 2 that come to mind of guys that balance it really well. Ja does too, where it's like they're just doing both. They're taking what's in front of them. And so I'm curious to see if Steph sticks with this distributing playmaking mindset, because I think that that's what's best overall for this team. And I think he also understands there's a couple reasons. That's one way to keep everybody happy and the chemistry up. I have all this depth and all these weapons. And 2, let's face it, it's something that he hasn't shown yet. He has the crown as the greatest shooter of all time. He has the golden dagger. He's got the 4 rings. What if Steph came out and led the league in assists or was in the top 3? That could be part of it too, showing a different phase of his career at this point. So I'm curious to see if he sticks with that playmaking mindset. Got Wiggins going, right? Again, the opponent matters. And I said that I'd start to do this. I'd start to talk about the other teams a little bit, because I know some of you watching aren't just Warrior fans, or you're not Warrior fans. So we can talk about the Blazers. Shaedon Sharpe is out. Rob Williams is out. You could already bet that right now. Scoot Henderson, I was high on him. I was a Scoot believer. Then I saw the clip where he was talking about the food. I was like, uh-oh, is he trolling us? I hope he's trolling us, right? But last night, I said it in the breakdown, he looked like HGH Bronny. Right? He just looked like a little husky or a little bulked up Bronny out there. And he's going to, he had 22. Most of it came when the game didn't matter. But it's kind of the same. Not only does he like visually look like Bronny on the court a little bit, but it's the same issue. It's the instincts. When he can get anywhere he wants on the floor. I just don't like the decisions he makes. A couple times you saw him try to like take off from the foul line. And you're just like, what are you doing? He's so explosive. He has no idea how to control it and make reads with the physical tools yet. I'm not saying it'll never happen, but Brandon Miller, looks a lot better, right? I think we can all agree with that. So, Portland just doesn't have a lot of basketball players, right? They got a lot of athletes. Ant Simons is a bucket. Jeremy Grant has nice tools, but you got a lot of kind of athletes and some of these young guys that defend. Clingan, who was the 7th pick, I think he's got to work on his body. He is oafy, to say the least. And, there was a couple plays where Kuminga, he had short-armed a ball because he was worried about Klingan's presence. And then as the game went on, I think the Warrior players realized this is the first time, obviously, they've played against him. Like, oh, he can't really get over and contest. He kind of has to be in front of you. Like, think Marc Gasol. And Klingan would be blessed to have the career of Marc Gasol, a defensive player of the year. But what I'm saying is Marc Gasol was a positional rim protector. He had to be in position ahead of time to contest and block shots. Klingan, if you turn the corner on him, it doesn't look like he can recover as big as he is, nor can he like rotate over from the weak side and get you unless he's already there, right? So we'll see how that goes. Again, the body, and he just a little more clumsy than I expected him to look in that setting. But Portland, I think Chauncey Billups has the highest odds of being the first coach fired. So we'll see how that goes. I think a lot of teams are going to be kind of circling Portland's roster when it's trade talks, because Grant, Simons, and heck, even some of those young defenders, Tumani, I don't know if you could peel him off them, but some serviceable guys in different settings for Portland. So we head into Utah Friday night. I know we've got 7 of 10 on the road, but we were blessed with these 2 quote unquote bottom feeding teams to start the season. You gotta get it how you live it, right? You got to take care of business. It doesn't matter if they're weak. Start off 2-0, and then the Pels next week, you get that baseball series. DeJounte Murray, already fractured left hand. That Pels organization seems cursed, right? Zion calls in like, he's like, I can't make it. What happened to Zion? I don't even understand. I guess I will speak on James Wiseman. I haven't heard the news this morning, and I didn't want to say anything yesterday about it because you just hope for the best, but non-contact looked like the Achilles. Kid can't, sometimes you got to just say maybe it's just not meant to be. You know what I'm saying? But, if you're James Wiseman, you got that number 2 pick contract, so you got tens of millions of dollars in the bank. You're still young enough. If you want to find the opportunity in the misfortune, learn how to play basketball. Don't make it about physicality. Don't make it about quickness and moving in your big athletic body. You're going to have to slow through the rehab process of that, and you're going to be compromised where you're going to have to do things at half speed. You're going to have to just like do small individual drills and break the game down and play slower. And sometimes coming off an injury, for a young guy, it can be a blessing in disguise if they slow down and start to play basketball rather than just try to be the athlete that they are. And so, yeah, man, I feel bad for the kid. Maybe that's not the news. Maybe it's something else, but that's certainly what it looked like. But if he loves hoops enough, he's got the resources and the time to still learn how to play basketball and come back. Because at that size, he doesn't have to be some twitchy athlete. His timing wasn't there anyway. Maybe this gives him some better timing because now he has to be patient on the floor. But yeah, prayers out to Wiseman and the Wiseman family because that's awful on night 1. Anyway, I'll be back with the Utah breakdown on my Patreon. If you want my coverage first and you're waiting for it, just sign up for the Patreon. It's well worth it. Got the breakdown up there already. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.